Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Mega Man X4, brought to us by Capcom. The fourth game in the X series was also the first of the Mega Man X games to be exclusively made for the PlayStation and Sega Saturn era video games. While Mega Man X3 was released on the systems, it was a port of the original Super Nintendo version. This game would also feature a PC release that was done about a year after this one. While the core gameplay of the X series wasn't changed up that much on X's side, however, they did change things up by making Zero a fully playable character. While in X3, Zero was just slightly playable during certain portions of the game that you could select him, but in this game he's a completely separate character with his own set of moves and complete set of abilities, and has his own storyline as well. The only thing is, no matter who you end up selecting, you're going to be playing as that character for the whole game. In later X games, they actually allowed you to change up which character you were playing as. But here we go with Mega Man X4 for the PlayStation 1. After the intro movie, you then get your game start. You can continue from a save game on your memory card, or you can go to the options where you can change up the sound move from stereo to mono, and change up the button configuration. Then when you start a brand new game, the first thing you're allowed to do is either select Mega Man X, or play as Zero. Of course, in this run we'll be playing as X himself.
It's about the Maverick Hunters, General. They are far too eager to please the humans and continue to hunt down the Reploids. Do you believe they pose a significant threat?
Perhaps.
You already know the truth, General. Their sole mission has been to destroy any Reploids who fail to do as the humans order. It's in your best interest to stop them now, before they turn on you. You possess enough power to destroy them!
Dismissed.
What?
I will not betray the humans. Remove yourself from my sight. My business with you has concluded.
Very well. But you will change your mind soon, I assure you.
After a little bit of storyline with X at the beginning, you're then dropped into the very first level of the game. Just like some of the other X games, you actually have an opening level before you actually get to the character selection screen where you're able to choose which boss you would like to fight next. In Mega Man X4, Mega Man controls pretty much exactly the same as he did in previous X titles. Having one of your buttons, or double pressing the left or right button in order to dash, you have your fully charged up X Buster that you can use, and jumping works, as well as of course the cool ability to be able to slide up and down walls. After the scene with Magma Dragoon, and also finding out that unfortunately the station that you're stationed on is collapsing towards Earth and many innocent lives will be lost, you then move on to the second part of the first level of the game. Here you're going to have to watch out for some giant falling rocks from the ceiling that can end up squashing you and cause you to instantly lose a life. You can destroy these with fully charged up X-Buster shots, but you'll have to avoid accidentally rushing too far forward so you don't end up getting squashed by one of these giant rocks. While unfortunately the voice acting in the game isn't necessarily too stellar, and fans of Mega Man 8 will definitely like the voice acting for X himself, the gameplay sound and music are still pretty top-notch for Capcom. After just a little ways into the level, we get our first warning screen, which is the first time this debuts in the X series, telling you before a boss fight's about to begin. We then face off with this giant dragon boss. It's a pretty easy fight, has a couple of projectiles you can fire out at first, and you can hit him pretty good with a fully charged up shot. He'll fly up in the air going to opposite sides of the screen, and you'll have to continue attacking him by jumping up in the air in order to hit him in the center chest area. He moves, of course, really slowly, and even with his shots, if he's able to hit you a few times, you should have plenty of health in order to avoid losing a life. He will sometimes dash across the screen, in which case you can dash away from him, and you should be able to avoid him as he goes in a nice little arcing pattern. Near the end of the fight, he'll start to charge up and naturally fire a whole bunch of projectiles against the ground. Just try to get as far away from him as possible and jump at the last second, and you may be able to actually avoid getting hit by these. When you finish a level, you can save your process to your memory card, continue and just move on without saving, or you can actually return to the main menu as well. After saving or continuing, you get a level introduction, also introducing a new character and companion for Mega Man during this game in Double.
Brave soldiers of Replipors, we have all been wrongfully judged as mavericks by the humans. We cannot suffer this indignity and live in disgrace. We will build our own nation of Reploids. But remember, this is neither about insurrection nor rebellion against our human creators. This is about our liberty and security. We must battle for our own individual rights and our own survival. Together we will build our nation, a sanctuary for all Reploids, our own utopia. Let us forge onward towards a new golden era for the Repliforce.
I too share the general sentiment. Take heed, we have no other choice. Let us fight valiantly, with courage and pride, without fear, for we are the Repliforce.
The most powerful army in history!
The General has finally taken action. And now, my Maverick Hunters, what will you do? I'll be watching closely from here on out.
After being introduced to all the levels, you're then able to select which level you'd like to go to first. The first level we're going to be starting with is Magma Dragoon, the guy we just ran into at the end of the first part of the opening stage. One of the things I will always remember about this game is the introductions of each of the Mavericks that you end up facing, especially with the announcer saying their names. Just the way they were all said was always very memorable to me. We then are plopped down into his level, and it's a volcano filled with lots of flaming rocks coming at you. You'll have to run away from certain ones coming at you from behind at the beginning, and then do a lot of jumping in this level from platform to platform while rocks fall and rise from the different pits in the area. After the first set of falling rocks, you then have some jumping flames jumping from a little portion to another part of the level. You'll have to quickly either get past these before the next one comes out, or stand underneath the arc of the flame to avoid taking damage. Next up, when you're rushing up this hill, 3 flaming rocks will come towards you. What you'll have to do is jump over each one of them to avoid getting hit by them and continue up the hill. You then move on to the second portion of Magma Dragoon's level. You'll have to watch out for more falling and rising rocks from giant pits, but the platforms you jump on can actually break if two rocks end up colliding into them. Start climbing up these rocks, taking out the enemies as you do so. Like previous Mega Man X games, there's lots of collectibles to get, including the heart tanks to give you a little bit more health, E-tanks that you can build up and replenish your health with, and X armor pieces that you can get as well. There's 2 in this level, but we aren't able to get them quite yet, so we'll be coming back to this level, but thankfully this is the only level we'll have to come back to. After a little ways, you'll actually jump into a giant suit of armor similar to other X games. Your official health bar isn't hurt during this, though eventually the armor will explode after too much damage. Takes out some rocks, and then you'll be in Magma Dragoon's level. I always found it cool that there's a few levels in the game that don't really have a boss chamber. You kind of just enter them from different parts of the level, and I think it gives a little bit more of a spontaneous thing that you're not quite sure exactly when the boss is coming up. Magma Dragoon is probably the coolest of the Mavericks you face in the game. First off, he's the only Maverick you can actually fight inside the suit if you like, though we'll be jumping out to battle him, as well as he actually has a Street Fighter move. He's able to throw out the Hadouken, which actually is a big flame, but it still uses the Hadouken voice sample here. He also is really fast, and he's definitely one of the toughest ones to start out with, but I find him the most rewarding to beat with very low abilities. Use your fully charged up shots when possible, and you can actually hit him when he's off screen. When he jumps straight up in the air and comes crashing down at you with a kick, you try to run underneath him, and the same goes for his very slow jump. He can also use Kenario's uppercut move as well. Watch out for this by just trying to step a little bit away from him when he's trying to do it. When he does the Hadoukens, he'll either do 2 of them at the same time, usually one above and then one below, and you'll have to avoid both of these. But this gives you a good opportunity of doing a quick jump over one and launching a full charged up shot at him at the same time. The fight can get pretty intense, but if you're able to get past him with very low stats, you shouldn't have too much trouble with later Mega Man X bosses. For defeating Magma Dragoon, we get the Rising Fire ability, and then once again we can save and move on to the next level. From here we're going to be selecting the very first Maverick in the list, Web Spider. Web Spider has a very nice jungle-themed level with some good graphics, including a rainbow even in the background of the level. You start off with a whole bunch of the platforms being covered in water, though this really doesn't affect you even though they're moving around. Use some charged up shots to take out the little fish that are jumping out of the water themselves, and then you'll have to actually attack the big fish a few times with some shots in order to get rid of them. When dropping down here, watch out for the robots against the walls, and then enter the small passageway to the right to get the first of the Dr. Light X armor upgrades. Here we end up getting the leg upgrade, and this definitely will come in handy, allowing you to dash in mid-air and also allow you to levitate. Now, I'll be honest, the levitation portion isn't necessarily my favorite because I end up activating in areas and times when I'm really not trying to. Here I probably do one of the most interesting moves I do in the whole game by being able to just barely latch onto this platform on the right side by doing a quick dash in midair in order to just barely save myself. After that little bit, we have some moving logs going up and down the waterfall, which of course is classic from many old games. They're easy to jump upon, but just do so quickly so you can get over to the opposite side. While climbing up here, you actually don't need to use the ladders if you don't want to. With Mega Man X's jump being so high, you're actually able to just cling onto the sides of the platform and spring your way up to other ones. This will allow you to take out this guy on the right side without trying to climb the ladder and get easily hit by him. Up here you have two of the fish guys, the blue and the green one. Just jump over him with a quick dash and then destroy the door on the right to enter the second part of Web Spider's level. During this part of the level, you have these robots that form webs and they move along the webs as well, so you have to do your best to avoid. A little bit farther up, watch out for the snakes that fall from the sky, and then you'll have more of the hornet robots that we fought from the very first stage. Thankfully, a fully charged up Buster Shot will take out a long line of them, and also destroy their hive. Next up, you'll have some more falling down platforms using either the ladders or the little open gaps, just watching out for once again more robots hanging on the walls. In the next segment, you have some pretty cool platforming with a bunch of the trees set up with different branches leading off of them. However, when you get down here, equip Magma Dragoon's ability for the first time. In this tree is actually one of the more hidden of the extra health pieces that you end up getting in the game. Grabbing it will give you a tiny bit more health to your total health meter. When you make it up here, you can once again use Magma Dragoon's ability to open up this tree and fall down here for a large chunk of health to replenish any health you've really lost up to this point. Here, go past one more Hornet and one more of the web creatures and enter the boss chamber for Web Spider. Now, like a lot of my Mega Man X and Mega Man videos, I will be showing you mainly how to beat these guys without their weaknesses the first time around. We end up rematching all the Mavericks later on in the game, in which case I'll show you exactly what to beat them with and their actual weaknesses. All the Mavericks in the game have a little bit of dialogue, not nearly as long as Magma Dragoons, but they all have a couple little lines of dialogue before you fight them. Web Spider is one of the easiest Mavericks though in the game. He drops down from his web and after a few seconds sends out another web that starts chasing you down. If this web hits you, it ends up freezing you, allowing him to get a big move off of you in order to instantly do some damage. Quickly dashing away from him, underneath of him, or over to the opposite wall so you can get a jump over it are the best ways to avoid getting hit by this web. Of course, during the entire time he's off screen, you can be charging up your X-Buster to deliver a fully charged up shot when he does appear. After he gets about halfway through his health, he ends up causing 4 webs to appear and he moves like a diamond pattern up in between all the different webs set up here. Every so often, once again using the freezing web, or he'll send out all these tiny little spiders to bounce around as well. You can try to do your best to avoid these spiders, but thankfully they don't do too much damage to you, and just keep launching shot after shot. The second half of the fight is just as easy as the first, and actually maybe a little easier since you can consistently keep attacking him because he stays on screen. Once he's done, we grab his ability and move back on to the enemy select screen. When we make it back to the enemy select screen, we have 6 Mavericks left to fight, and we're going to pick Frost Walrus as our next Maverick. Be sure to check out the background of this level because there's actually a couple of cameos. At the very beginning of the level, Blizzard Buffalo is actually seen frozen, and later on you can actually find Chill Penguin in the boss chamber, also frozen in the background, which is a nice little touch and throwback to the other X games. A lot of the platforms in this level are of course snow-colored platforms. The ones at the very beginning in this area basically form from ice or snow, and then after a few seconds break apart, and you'll have to quickly jump on them and get off of them before they end up falling apart. Next up, you have a ton of spikes on the ground in between some pits. Of course, you don't want to hit them and lose a life, and the same goes for the very large amount of snow that ends up forming these paths here. Just quickly dash along them, as well as jump over any enemy that may get in your way and get off of them quickly before they end up falling apart on you. At the end here though, jump along this wall and use Web Spider's ability in order to climb up and grab the first of the extra tanks in the game. If you're running a little bit low on health at this point, you can jump up this left wall, climb all the way to the top, face off with one of my favorite robots in the game, this guy who stomps around and stomps on the ground causing ice to come at you, and you can also grab a big piece of health behind him. When you drop down, you'll have to take out another one of these guys, along with the angry little snowmen who just are so angry that you're even near him that he just comes charging right directly at you. Here you'll have a little bit of fun. You'll have to stand on these ice platforms and they slowly do rise. You may have to wait for the first one to actually break against the ceiling before you'll have an open up gap so you can actually go in and continue on. Then you'll enter a small boss chamber here. This is the boss that when you look in the background you can see Chill Penguin frozen in the background before this guy ends up forming. Now the best way to fight this guy is definitely using Magma Dragoon's ability. You can just launch it directly into his eye every time he reopens up. You can also do this to prevent him from actually getting most of his attacks off, though eventually he will come crashing down in a big ice ball that you'll have to avoid, and then some icicles from the top will end up falling down as well. When he does this, he'll actually get a whole bunch of spikes all around him and start bouncing all around the room. This can get a little bit tough to dodge, but thankfully the room is rather large and you should be able to avoid him for the most part and keep launching Magma Dragoon's ability up at him. Once his health has been fully drained, you move on to the second portion of Frost Walrus's level. Next up, you'll be in a very large area full of different ice blocks. Now these ice blocks sometimes contain items, nothing, or even enemies. You can use fully charged up shots in order to break down whole lines of them, but be careful that you don't accidentally run into some enemies as well. The one thing is, you don't have to really worry about any kind of pits during this segment, and also there's no hidden items to really locate except for this one right here near the end that you can easily get and see by just jumping up on these short blocks. After getting through that though, continue moving and dashing through, taking out some more tools, as well as some crane enemies that after they appear on screen for a few seconds they stop and cause this big flash to happen, freezing the whole area you're in. Thankfully, destroying them quickly will prevent them from causing this to happen. After a little bit of ways through that whole area, you'll eventually make it to the boss chamber, and it's time to battle with Frost Walrus. Frost Walrus is the biggest maverick we've seen in an X game up to this point. The very large hulking-like beast has some pretty powerful attacks, being able to just run into you for one, which causes some decent damage, and also can jump around the room running into different walls and sliding around when he does so. However, because of this though, he does move relatively slow, and this will give you the ability to launch in full charged up shots. Every so often he'll launch stuff into the air and then a whole bunch of icicles will fall down from the ceiling. Usually getting in between them though is pretty easy and you should be able to avoid them landing directly on top of you. He will destroy them when he walks over them, or you can destroy them with your X-Buster itself. Since his slow movement really ends up helping you, you can just keep launching full charged up shots or even little shots at him to drain his health rather quickly. We now have 5 Mavericks to go, and the next one we're going to be selecting is Split Mushroom. Split Mushroom has one of the cooler levels in the game. It starts off with this giant staircase that you have to work your way up. Dashing actually makes the whole thing move really quickly and gives a weird kind of effect while doing so. There's a decent amount of enemies during the staircase segment, but thankfully you can actually jump over most of them or do a hover move or dash in the air in order to avoid a lot of them. At the top of the area though, you will make it to a teleporter and teleport to the next little segment. Here you'll have a lot of little platforming in a small, tighter area, as well as robots climbing along the walls and ceiling. On the next screen, you'll start working your way up a long, different set of walls. Here you'll meet some of the giant ladybug-like robots that kind of just hover around and run into you, which is their only real nuisance, as well as a lot of vines that you can see wrapped all along the walls, having big spikes on them to avoid, as well as you will have some enemies actually attached to these vines. Here you'll have to wait for the opening while climbing up the ladders and wait for the giant spiking drills to collide and then pull apart to give you a small opening of time to climb up the ladder and continue on. When you make it to the top though, it's time to battle another mini-boss. Here we'll be using Frost Walrus's move for the first time in the game. You have a larger version of the ladybug-like enemy that we've been fighting. He'll hover and dash underneath you along all the spikes on the bottom. Just stand still. Eventually he'll stop and charge upward with all his spikes. Jump up in the air along with this and use Frost Walrus's move. Then, for a quick and easy defeat, jump on top of him in the hole that he ends up creating. While you're invulnerable from the hit, you'll be able to use Frost Walrus's move again to pretty much destroy this guy and get rid of him and move on to the second half of Split Mushroom's level. The second half of the level starts off just like the first half did, with a large staircase sequence. This time you can see red or pink marking all the different stairs. This one's a little bit tougher though, because you have a lot of giant bouncing spiked balls that move along, coming at you in all different ways that you'll have to avoid, or at least try to avoid, as you're dashing your way up the stairs. During the next segment at the very beginning, drills at the top will break apart a part of the level. You'll have to quickly jump to the part they break so you can spring upwards to the top to grab another one of the piece of the health containers. Then quickly dash through the next little area, as drill will actually cause more of the background to actually fall apart on you, and of course causing more gaps to appear. On the next segment, you'll be in a giant elevator sequence, and like many, you'll have to slowly ride the elevator while different types of enemies attack you from all angles. Thankfully though, we have Magma Dragoon's weapon, and this allows you to fire upwards, being able to easily take out the giant plants that grow out from vines along the walls. When you make it farther up, a few more enemies will appear, but you can just keep launching fireballs up at them in order to do a good amount of damage. Here, you'll have to wait for the rocks to get destroyed so that you can quickly get over to the left to avoid getting crushed by the next ones that are lined up above. After that next little segment, you'll just easily be able to avoid most of the rest till you make it to the top. Here you'll be able to grab a piece of health as well as some item replenishment if you need it before you actually make it to the boss chambers to fight Split Mushroom. Split Mushroom is kind of an interesting boss, that he actually has similarities to the old Mega Man boss of Gemini Man. He starts off by making a bunch of different clones of himself along the wall. They all come jumping and running towards you in different ways, so you'll have to be careful to avoid them. Of course, the best way is to be on the opposite wall, so you can avoid most of them. He'll then split into two forms and start jumping around the room. You can focus on what one you want to and keep firing fully charged up shots when you get the opportunity, and they'll just keep jumping around the circle at first, eventually stopping and actually going into the air, rotating a little bit, and then dropping down to the floor. When they do this, be sure not to be standing directly next to them when they crash into the ground, because they cause a giant cloud of spores to fly up into the sky that you'll have to avoid as well. This fight is actually pretty fast-paced for a guy who you really wouldn't think necessarily would be a pretty tough guy. While it may not be the coolest looking of the Mavericks, he actually ends up being a pretty fun fight. And once we're able to take care of them, we can move on to the second half of the game, starting with actually a halfway level before we're able to select the next Maverick we want to fight. After completing the first 4 Mavericks of your choosing, you're then brought to a halfway level here, introduced by the Colonel. There isn't too much to the level, it's really just kind of walk a little bit, a cutscene, and then a boss fight. Here we battle the evil Colonel for the first time in the game. Start with a fully charged up shot against him, and then wait for him to start sending out some waves at you. He sends out 3 in a row, and if you're quick and have the right timing with your jump, you should be able to actually launch a couple of little hits on him during this segment. He'll then disappear. He'll reappear right next to you, and if you time it right, you can hit him with another shot, but you can also just dash away to make sure you avoid getting extra hit. The little hover that you end up getting from the boot upgrade ends up helping you out here as well, because you can just hover in the air a little bit and then drop back down to the ground as he dashes away. This may give you a better advantage of actually being set up so you can jump over the waves that he throws out in a little bit. Just keep launching those shots at him every time. It's not a very complicated battle, but it can take a little while because you only have certain opportunities to actually deliver damage to him. After the Colonel's been defeated, he heads off, you end up leaving, and then you're back to the Maverick Hunter selection screen to continue on the game. The next one we're going to be picking though is Peacock, another one of the more interesting Mavericks in the game, and definitely one of the more interesting level setups, especially when it comes to collecting the upgrades available in his level, and there's 3 for X to collect in his stage. In Peacock's level, in order to get the items, you actually have to get a certain ranking. When you pass through the first passageway, you end up getting a computer sensor on you telling you to hurry up. You now have to dodge as many enemies as possible and not take any damage during this segment, so you can make it to the end quickly. If you make it into the end quickly enough, you end up getting a rank of S. If you get the S rank, well, congratulations, you'll get the first item. You'll net yourself another one of the energy containers, giving you a little bit more energy. You'll then move on to the second segment of the level. Here you'll once again be hit with another one of the hurried ups. This time is a little bit tougher as the passageways are pretty small and you have 3 of them to deal with, going in and out of each one of them, dodging as many of the giant yellow rotating balls as possible. Once again, if you're able though to get through quickly, you'll get another S rank. With the second S rank, you then get an E-Tank. The E-Tanks work just like they did in the previous X games, that you'll be able to actually replenish it by grabbing extra health when you have full health, in order to fill it up and then use it when you need to when you have low health in order to help you out. It's now time for the third and hardest one of these segments. You'll have to quickly climb up here, bouncing between each platform. Using the extra boot upgrade will help you out as you'll be able to dash in mid-air in order to quickly get up, because if you don't you'll have to use the ladders and it can be definitely trickier. Use Split Mushroom's ability in order to take out some of the yellow balls with the cloning ability, as this will allow you to actually dash by even faster. If you're able to make it to the end once again with an S rank, this time you'll find an upgrade container, this time getting the helmet upgrade. After netting the helmet upgrade, you can then just dash over to another one of the little entrance ways and get to the second half of Cyber Peacock's level. Now, from the rest of this level, it's pretty straightforward. You don't have to worry, thankfully, about getting any more collectibles. The gimmick for the second half of the level, though, is you have all these different switches that when you end up touching them causes the gravity and the level to switch over. You'll have to do this and time it correctly so you don't end up getting hit by the giant balls that seemingly are lining everywhere in this area. You're going to also have to take out the purple platforms, and to do so you'll have to have these giant balls land through them. You'll have to do the correct timing at the right point so you can actually cause the balls to fall through and actually break open the platform so you can continue on to the next part. After that segment though, it's time to battle Cyber Peacock. For as cool as Cyber Peacock looks, he actually is one of the easier Mavericks to deal with. He teleports around the room, teleporting directly on you when he appears. Just quickly dash out of the way and do a quick turn in order to launch a full charged up shot into him. Just keep repeating the process a while, and eventually though, he will stand still for a second and cause all the feathers on him to spring out like spikes. When he does this, just be sure to do the dash like you've been doing to get away from him, and you should have no trouble dodging his attack. When you make it halfway through the fight though, he ends up causing a radar to follow you. When this radar ends up landing on you, it allows him to fire out missiles that try to home in on you. You'll have to do some dodging and jumping around in order to keep attacking him while also dodging the missiles. Thankfully though, some more charged up shots will easily get rid of him, and since you can just keep attacking him over and over again since he doesn't disappear anymore, you should be able to finish him off and get his ability and move on to the next Maverick. We now have 3 Mavericks left, and we're going to take out the final Maverick that's located in the top row. This one being Storm Owl. I was always disappointed that this Maverick was also named Storm Owl. The fact that we also already had a Maverick named Storm, and of course Storm Eagle from the original Mega Man X, and definitely one of my favorite in the whole series, kind of just made this guy not feel that great overall. While Storm Owl may not be that cool of an overall Maverick, his level is actually a pretty cool setup. Having all the different giant airships that bounce in between as different platforms makes the level an overall cool design. You're also given the big blue armor for the first time, which has some pretty cool firepower, being able to fire out multiple shots really quickly, or doing a fully charged up shot causing a homing attack, which can take out most enemies rather easily. When you make it to this ladder, if you need some help, you can jump out of your suit of armor and climb up to grab a big piece of health and then continue on. Watch out for these little guys and just be very quick when you move through this area so you can get to the platform before the giant laser above you ends up destroying it, so you can end up grabbing the health container before it ends up falling into the pit below. The big guns are probably some of the tougher enemies in this area because they can cause the most damage, but thankfully with the full charged up shot and the homing ability of the fully charged up shot with the armor, you'll be able to take those guys out. Unfortunately though, the armors aren't made forever, so if you take enough damage like I have here, it will eventually explode on you, but thankfully we're near the end of the segment. At the beginning of the second part, jump up this wall quickly so you don't get hit by the big laser that the robot ends up sending out. Have a fully charged up shot as well so you can take out the next couple of robots that are also waiting to hit you with their fully charged up shot. Now the next part's a little bit tricky. You have to attach a web to this wall of spikes here, then jump up to the wall right to the right of it. If you do this correctly, you'll be able to just barely get up to this platform here. Here you'll find a container that has the arm upgrade. However, this actually isn't the only container here. There's another one just to the left of this. They both contain upgrades to the X-Buster. However, you're only able to hold one at a time. You can choose the first one here that allows you to have 4 charged up shots in reserve at all times to launch out at enemies when you do a full charge up, and then you also have the one to the left of it, which is the plasma shot. This, when you do a fully charged up shot to an enemy, will leave a ball that will keep hitting enemies as long as they keep running into it for a few seconds. You can keep launching a couple of these out on the screen at once, and actually keep racking up damage with them as well to enemies that stand still. The plasma ends up being my more favorite of the two. Once you have your upgrade of choice, drop down carefully to the platform below by using a charge at the last moment in order to enter this mini-boss door. Inside here, just jump up with your newly fully charged up plasma shot that you have, or you can use Magma Dragoon's ability to do a jumping uppercut when it's fully charged up in order to easily take out this guy. After that, keep climbing just a little bit longer and you'll make it to the actual battle against Storm Owl. Storm Owl will immediately start trying to fly away. You can hit him just barely with your first shot. You can now see every time I deliver a full charged up shot, it leaves that little bit of extra power left behind that can actually hit a guy multiple times. Since Storm Owl moves actually pretty slowly even while in flight, you can use this to your advantage to keep hitting him multiple times. He will sometimes stop in order to launch out a spread shot at you, so be careful of this, but you can actually take that out as well with a fully charged up shot. When he's hovering just above your head, he will try to swoop down and grab you. If you're quick with the dash though, you'll be able to avoid him hitting you with this. He'll then just go back to the slow moving flight that he's been doing. When he gets down to low health, he'll start doing a full giant tornado move. He'll stand on the ground for a few seconds and launch all these tornadoes up in the air, which if you're standing anywhere near them, of course you won't be able to dodge. So just try to dash to the opposite side of the room is usually the best pattern in order to try to avoid them. Once Storm Owl is taken care of though, we now have only 2 Mavericks left. The next Maverick we're going to take out is probably one of the more interesting levels in the game, and that is Jet Stingray.
Jet Stingray!
Jet Stingray's entire level takes place on the X-Bike here. You can do a full charged up shot with it in order to charge forward with it to take out most enemies. You don't want to always stay near the exact front of this because you want to make sure that you're going to be able to make it over some quick jumps when necessary in order to avoid falling down the pits. You can also fire little shots out as well. When you make it to the top here, do not jump, instead just drop down. You'll still land on the platform just below this and be able to grab another one of those health upgrades. Watch out for all the pits, and if you time it correctly, you can actually use the charge up ability to help you get over some of the pits in this area. Eventually the whole area behind you will start exploding as you're rushing out of this building. When you make it to the end of the segment though, you'll move on to the second part of Jet Stingray's level, and now you're in a much more open ocean-like area with a bunch of big rigs set up in the background. Here it's more the same, but thankfully there isn't any pits to fall into, but there is a couple areas that can end up squashing you, so you have to be careful of that. Just keep doing what you've been doing by keep using the jet's charge ability in order to take out most enemies that get in your general path. I always love doing this because it's really cool to just see in action of being able to just jump over large gaps or fly for a large portion of the sky with this ability. Near the end, do a full charged up ability here so you can break up these boxes and grab yourself another one of the extra tanks. Once you have that, grab the big piece of health and then enter the boss chamber to fight with Jet Stingray. Jet Stingray is a relatively tough battle at first, as you'll only be able to hit him during certain segments. You can climb the wall to help you out and get a little bit closer to him in case you can't just do the straight jump out of the water in order to hit him with a full charged up shot. He swoops back and forth from left to right or right to left while also flying through the air. He'll eventually maintain a hover just above the water and launch out these little tadpole enemies at you. These tadpoles can get in your way and keep bouncing back and forth until eventually you destroy them with your X-Buster. Eventually, Jet Stingray will pop down into the water and try to pull you towards them with a giant tornado-like suction move. He'll then go back up into the air and fire out a little bit different type of the different tadpoles. These red ones move a little bit quicker and are a little bit more dangerous. He'll then like to fly underneath the ground and charge up and down from the ground and ceiling for a couple of seconds before going back to the hovering just above water, allowing you to hit him again. Once you're able, though, to deliver that final hit to him, you can move on to the last Maverick of the game.
You got Clown Hunter.
And the final Maverick of the game that we're going to be dealing with is Slash Beast. Slash Beast always reminded me of kind of a distant cousin or maybe future relative of Slash Man from Mega Man 7. Slash Beast's entire level does take place on a moving train, which is a pretty cool setup overall. Thankfully though, there's no overhanging tunnels or anything to get in your way, so you don't have to worry about being hit from above. Every so often while moving along the train, you'll end up stopping and have this little clumsy robot end up appearing for a few seconds to throw a bomb to break apart a part of the train. Once he does so though, you'll have to quickly jump to the train part that he was on so you can continue moving on the level. Thankfully though, having the upgrade to the legs allowing you to dash in midair will definitely help you out here. The giant cannons are probably some of the tougher enemies during this segment, but thankfully with the fully charged up shot and the plasma ability, you'll be able to take these out almost as easy as we were able to take them out during Storm Owl's level. While Slash Beast is honestly one of the tougher Mavericks in the whole game, his level overall, other than the jumping you'll have to do in order to avoid some of the train parts and falling into pits, isn't too difficult. At the end of the first segment though, you will have a boss to deal with, but with the plasma shot he's easily taken care of. He has 3 giant spikes that he throws out at you, but you can do the plasma shot with a full charged up shot in order to easily take out each individual spike, instantly pretty much draining all of his health. Once he's taken care of, you move on to the second half of Slash Beast's level. Here you have more of the same that we had in the first part, with lots of more training for you to travel along. There isn't any more of the clumsy robots though breaking up this part, so it ends up being a little bit easier. One of the other cool things is you get another one of the suits of armor to deal with, and this one being another one of the red ones. This one you can just easily dash in and charge through some enemies and do some pretty cool jumping moves with the swipe in order to take out flying enemies and some of the other guys who may get in your way. There is some added energy to grab during this level, but thankfully it's actually directly in your path and you can easily grab it and you shouldn't have any trouble seeing it. Just keep running through the enemies and using your jump attack for the most part while in this armor to definitely help you out and easily hit enemies better. You should also be able to replenish any health you may have lost up to the point before you ended up grabbing the armor. After the train comes to a halt, you'll be in another small area before you end up jumping onto another train. Here, just watch out for the pits, and you have a couple of those clumsy robots throwing and shooting some stuff at you, and some bats dropping some bombs as well. After the short segment though, you'll be back on the moving trains with some more of the same enemies, including the giant guns that you can easily take out with the plasma shot. After just a couple more of them though, it's time for the boss fight. Slash Beast, like I said, is one of the toughest bosses to deal with. He has his main move, which is kind of a jumping kick that ends up causing two giant blades to come flying at you. Even being on the far opposite end, you'll have to time your jumping correctly so you can actually get above these and climb along the wall in order to get in between the two shots is your best strategy. Do your full charged up shots like normal, and eventually he'll stand still and charge in either the left or right walls. Jump over him, and then he'll immediately double back and do the same to the opposite wall. This gives you a good opportunity though to deliver hits to him. With our upgraded health bar and upgraded equipment, getting in between the two blade shots is really the only thing you're going to have to worry about, as jumping over him with his other charge could be pretty simple to do at this point. After draining all his health though, we've now defeated all the Mavericks of Mega Man X4, and it's time to move on to the final stages. But we do have one pit stop we have to make first.
You got Twin Slasher.
Before moving on to the final level of the game, we have to go back to Magma Dragoon's level in order to pick up some upgrades that we couldn't get before. Of course, the major one being the upgrade to the armor, as well as another piece of energy to fill up our energy tank all the way up. Now the first half of the stage is the exact same as we did before. You don't have to worry about collecting anything here, you just have to worry about getting through. So it's the same way as you did before, jumping from platform to platform, using the dash to your ability, and watching out for all the flaming rocks that want to take you out. After you make it past all the flaming rocks, you can then jump on some ledges of these platforms. Take out this guy here and then get out Web Spider's move. Here I'm just showcasing the fully charged up version by accident before I actually throw out the normal version. Do an air dash to it, and then jump onto the upper left in order to grab the energy upgrade to fully max out your health bar. Then continue on just a little bit past the first few mechs and jump into this mech here. Here we're going to do a jump up into the air with the mech and get up to this platform. You'll have to get out Slash Beast's move and do a fully charged up version of it in order to break down this wall to get to the final Dr. Light capsule. Once you have the armor equipped, open up your menu and go to the escape option. Then when you get back to the level selection screen, select the middle level, spaceport, to begin the first of the final few levels of the game. Now this level starts off with a whole bunch of the robots we were introduced to throughout the levels, including Slash Beast's level. You'll have some of the guys throwing some grenades and the other ones firing directly at you with their guns. Jump on the wall here and then slowly slide down. You can actually avoid these two enemies here before making it into the room with a ton of bouncing spike balls. These are rather annoying to dodge in and out, and you'll probably get hit once or twice. Use your X-Buster in order to use fully charged up shots along with the plasma shot in order to take out a large majority of the spike balls. Then start climbing up some ladders and watch out for more of the little robot guys that are going to try to hit you during this segment. Here you can do the air dash or a little bit of a hover off the very top of the wall so you can make it to the next ladder. Then when you make it to the top though, it's time for the boss chamber.
I've been waiting to fight with you.
After a short dialogue scene, it's time for a rematch against the Colonel. Now this battle pretty much goes the exact same as the battle we had earlier against him. However, now he has a lightning move to add to his repertoire. He'll thrust his sword up into the sky and then stab it into the ground, causing lightning to spread along the ground as well as fire upwards up into the air. Thankfully though, you can easily jump over the lightning, as well as get in between the shots that form along the ground before they fire up into the air to avoid taking hits from it. Other than that though, this fight is the exact same, so you shouldn't have too much trouble being able to take out the Colonel again. Once the Colonel is taken care of though, it's time to move on to the next level of the final stages.
Not again. Hey, watch it! I'm terribly sorry.
It's me. Those hunters must not be allowed in here. Terminate them!
Roger. What a freak.
Hey, Double, what's the matter?
This is another Hunter, 17th unit. Commander X, please respond.
What happened? Report!
Nothing to worry about.
No further transmissions unless necessary to carry out the operation.
Understood.
I'm breaking contact.
And now, X will be my next target.
After selecting the next level and a little bit of a cutscene showcasing that our little friend Double may not necessarily be who we think he is, we then move on to the next level. Here you'll have a bunch of those robots that stand still and fire the very large red lasers at you, so try to dodge this as much as possible. Thankfully though, only a couple of rooms before you enter the next boss chamber and it's time for another big boss fight. Here, of course, we have to unfortunately do battle with Double, who has really shown his true form as a big evil robot. Double in his evil form is a relatively tough boss and one of the tougher ones we've faced so far into the game. His main form of attack is these giant energy balls that ends up flying up into the air towards you. They are rather large and they stay in place for a few seconds once they end up stopping, so you'll have to do your best to jump over them and avoid them altogether. He then looks to jump up into the air, crash down towards the ground, and then charge towards whichever wall he's facing. Getting used to this and the best ways to jump and maneuver around it is going to benefit you the most of being able to actually deliver hits to this guy. Usually dashing away from him when he's up into the air and then doing a quick jump and air dash towards him when he's trying to do upwards thrust into the next wall will allow you to be able to hit him. Eventually though, he will send out some big giant waves at you, and these are going to hit you no matter what as there's nowhere to dodge them. Thankfully though, they won't hurt you too bad and you have enough health in order to survive. Finish him off with the last few hits and get another cutscene before the next level. Thankfully though, you don't even have to go back to the level selection screen, we just instantly move on to the next part of the level. Here you'll have a little bit of hallways and platforms to charge in and out of, dodging some of those robots with the big shields. When you make it to the top, you can either go down or to the right. Either way will eventually lead to the same goal. When you make it up here though, I'm choosing the right option, use web spiders, move in order to bounce along this wall of spikes so I can get over it. Even though this is a pretty small area, there's a ton of projectiles and weapons going on here, including the giant red lasers and even little tiny robots as well. Thankfully, there's a big chunk of health at the end though before you enter into another boss chamber door.
Show me your true power.
Now it's time to battle the final form of the Colonel. Now this guy is quite large and takes up a very large amount of space on the screen, so getting used to this is going to take a little bit of time. You're going to have to climb up the opposite wall from him and at the right moment be able to do an air dash over him in order to avoid him running directly into you. The good thing though is, even though he is quite large and powerful, he moves pretty slowly, so this will give you an opportunity to deliver fully charged up shots if you quickly make it to the opposite wall from him before he ends up making it to you. Eventually he'll stop and send out his arms at you, and you can actually jump on these arms to get closer to him and keep delivering hits to him. Using your hover ability will allow you to actually stand on the hands for long periods of time while you keep delivering shots. The only thing is you will have to avoid these ring projectiles that he fires out. Thankfully, with the full set of equipment, these don't end up hurting you too bad, and you'll be able to jump over a bunch of them. Unfortunately, sometimes, like here, his arms will be really close to the ceiling, so standing on them will end up being pretty dangerous to you, and you'll keep getting hit by the rings over and over again. But it gives us a great opportunity to drain his health and defeat the Colonel. After the fight with the Colonel, we move to the save selection screen one more time to select the final weapon level once again. Now, like most Mega Man games, including the X series, most of the games always have one last boss gauntlet to go through before you end up making it to the actual final boss, and this game is just like those. After just a little bit into the level, you'll drop down to a giant area with all these different teleporters leading you to one-on-one boss fights against all the robot Mavericks that we've been fighting throughout the game. I'm going to start in the upper left corner and just go around the room, and we're going to start with a rematch against Web Spider. This time, however, we're going to be using their weaknesses in order to help us out and maybe make the fight go a little bit better. When the battle begins with Web Spider, we're going to switch over to the twin slasher that we got from Slash Beast and wait for him to appear on screen. As soon as he appears, we'll be able to instantly hit him with Slash Beast's move, and it does a pretty good amount of damage to him. We will still have to keep dodging the little bit of web that he shoots out so that he doesn't freeze us and cause us to end up getting hit. You can use either form of Slash Beast's move here, either the regular shot that's just the 2, or the fully charged up one that sends out a whole giant stack of them. Just like before, after halfway through the fight, he will start moving around the giant diamond, and this gives you an open opportunity to keep hitting him over and over again with Slash Beast's move. If you run out of Slash Beast's move at any time, though, you can always pull out just the normal X-Buster, especially with the plasma shot equipped, so you can hit him multiple times with one shot to drain the rest of his health and move on to the second Maverick. Now we have a rematch against Cyber Peacock. Now his weakness ends up being Split Mushroom's ability. The ability that ends up causing a doppelganger to appear of us that can do pretty significant damage to Cyber Peacock. You'll have to keep sending it out every time he ends up appearing, but every time he does appear, instead of being able to charge up into the air, we'll instantly hit him and drain his health pretty fast. One of the tougher matches still to deal with is Jet Stingray, because even with his weakness, which ends up being Frost Walrus's move, it can still be tricky sometimes to actually hit this guy. You can send out the giant full icicle using the fully charged up move, or just the normal small spike one that you can send out by just jumping straight up into him. When you hit him though, he will freeze and fly back up into the sky. Instead of though waiting for him, you can kind of make this battle even easier by jumping along the wall that he flew up near, and just keep using Frost Walrus's move over and over again as soon as he reappears from the ceiling. So if you wait on the ground for him, it can be a little bit of a pain just waiting for him over and over again, but jumping up to him on the ceiling and timing it correctly, you'll be able to get rid of him pretty quickly and easily. Next up is Split Mushroom. Now his weakness is web spiders, which also has an electric property to it. When you hit him with this, it instantly causes him to fall off the wall with an electric shock, stopping any move he's trying to do to you. He'll just keep jumping from back and forth from left to right walls over and over again. You can also easily destroy the clones he makes if he's able to get them out by using this move as well. For our rematch against Slash Beast, we're going to get out Jet Stingray's move and use those little robots that he shoots out in order to help us out. During the fully charged up one, we'll send out a big blade out towards Slash Beast, and that helps as well. Or you can just keep using the little ones over and over again as he bounces from left to right wall. Just keep jumping over him to avoid damage, and you'll drain his health really fast. No surprise to anyone that Magma Dragoon is the weakness to Frost Walrus. You can either use the normal just shot up into the sky, or you can use the charged up uppercut move in order to keep hitting Frost Walrus over and over again. He moves really slowly from back and forth every time you end up hitting him with this, which can be a little bit annoying, but it's still a really simple fight with the weakness, and you should be able to drain his health fast. Next up is our rematch against Storm Owl. Now, we end up using the laser-guided move of Cyber Peacock in order to help us out during this fight. Now, with this move, you actually can control the radar dish it ends up having on it by hitting up or down while it's out. Now, when you're able to actually hit him with it and you aim up at him, it's really easy, and you can see it does a ton of damage to Storm Owl. The only thing annoying, of course, with Storm Owl is that he will sometimes go off screen and you'll have to wait for him to reappear. Here he also ends up doing the only other move that he has that he didn't do in my first fight with him, which causes these 4 Saturn-like planets to appear on the screen, and then they all come flying at you after a certain amount of time. We have only one more Maverick left to rematch, and that's Magma Dragoon. And for Dragoon, we end up pulling out Storm Owl's ability. His normal one ends up sending out the 2 little planets that instantly hurt Magma Dragoon, or you can do a fully charged up version which sends tornadoes out to the left and right of X, doing a pretty good amount of damage to him as well. Every time you hit him with one of these, he will jump over you to the opposite side, but just time it correctly to keep hitting him, and you'll avoid any moves of Magma Dragoon being able to be pulled off. Be sure to replenish your health as well as some of your items from the item replenishment above you, and then jump down into the center teleport for the final boss fights.
Prepare to become space dust.
And no surprise to any veteran of the X series, Sigma ends up being the final boss here. Now for Sigma, you can try to use your charged up shots, but you'll have really no luck against them. You'll have to pull out Magma Dragoon's ability, and using the uppercut from this will instantly destroy the Grim Reaper form of Sigma. The second form, however, is a little bit tougher to deal with. Now his weakness ends up being Web Spider's move, but even with this it doesn't do a ton of damage. This form of Sigma is a lot tougher. He ends up throwing his giant sickle around the room, first just being able to just go around the room and you can jump over it. The second time he throws it out, it will attach to either the wall or the ground and cause a whole bunch of lightning to come out of it. You're pretty much going to want it to attach to the wall as you'll have a better shot of being able to dodge his other moves. However, Sigma has a big laser that he shoots out from his eyes that can be really annoying and take up a large chunk of the screen, hitting you over and over again until it finally dissipates. I find it best that even when he has that big laser out, you just focus on attacking him. Even though he keeps hitting you over and over again, keep attacking him with Web Spider's move to hurt him. We now move on to the final form, and this battle is a huge pain.
Are you ready for your final journey?
You basically have three parts to this fight. You have the giant mech Sigma, a giant face of Sigma, as well as 3 robot heads that fly around the room. You'll have to take out the heads first with one of your charged up shots. When you're able to take out one of the heads, it ends up reforming as either the giant face in the corner or the giant robot in the opposite corner. When he's a large face in the lower left corner, use Jet Stingray's move in order to hit him over and over again. And yes, they have 2 separate health bars and you have to take out both in order to win the battle. After a few hits and consistently taking damage from all the rocks he spews out, which are almost impossible to dodge, he'll go back to the giant heads again. Whichever version you end up getting, with the flames being the worst, take him out as quickly as possible and he'll go to the opposite form where he's in the upper right corner as the big robot. Here you want to be out of the range of his gun ability, but you can use Split Mushroom's ability to keep hitting him over and over again when he's in this form. Quickly switch back to the X-Buster when needed and take out the faces once again. The flames are the worst because they keep following you on screen. No matter where you are, the face will rise and fall with you and keep firing those fireballs at you, so try to get rid of it as fast as possible. Thankfully you should have some E-tanks if you do need them. When he goes back to the other form, he'll try to suck you in with all the rocks. Try to avoid them as they're coming in, and then when they're going back out, just keep mashing the attack button over and over again with Jet Stingray's move to sometimes be able to do damage to Sigma, but also destroy some of the rocks before they hit you. The blue face is the easiest of the faces to deal with because it moves rather slowly and attacks only the ground, so you will be able to climb along the faces on the opposite side and keep attacking the blue head. Once it's done, we go back to facing the giant robot in the upper right, doing Split Mushroom's ability again. This is the best portion of the game when the hover really comes in handy to help you destroy it. Once you're able though to take out the first form in the upper right corner with the giant robot, you'll then only have the face to deal with, and the pattern does change from here on out. Instead of trying to suck you in, he'll pretty much go to a tornado-like move that tries to pull you a little bit and then push you away into a giant spike wall on the opposite side. This way you'll be able to get in closer, you won't take damage from the little bits of tornado that fly at you, and you can hit him with Jet Stingray's move quite a few times. Then he'll go back to the opposite where he'll be doing the faces again, take out whichever one you have, and then keep mashing the attack button with Jet Stingray's move in order to keep damaging Sigma. If you get the yellow version, the yellow head stays in the middle of the screen on the top and ends up firing lightning at you. You'll have to jump up into the air in order to hit that version with one of your X-Buster shots. The face that he ends up picking though is completely random, so you're never quite sure what color you get, and sometimes you may have unfortunately an unlucky draw when it comes to those faces. Thankfully though, the tornado version of Sigma, you can actually dodge all his moves, finish him off, and enjoy the ending.
Maverick Hunter Headquarters.
Zero.
It's good to see you're safe, X. I was really worried about you.
Sorry about that.
Don't worry. It's all over. Go home and rest. You've earned it.
But Zero, what if I become one of the Mavericks?
Don't ask such a silly question. I'm breaking contact now.
Wait, Zero! I'm serious! Zero, if I become a Maverick, you have to take care of me.
Don't be ridiculous. Now hurry on back.
Promise me. Zero.
After defeating Sigma, once again we then get to our credit screen for the game. A nice little picture of the Earth shining below and the space station that we were just on exploding in the background. It's kinda hard to judge Mega Man X4, and it seemingly was one of the last ones that they originally wanted to do, even though there is a cliffhanger at the end of the credits here. The series would continue with X5 through X8, but you could definitely tell, especially when you got to X6, that they were trying to change up things a little bit too much, and ended up straying away from what made the X series so great. X4 is one of the better games in my opinion in the series, and I do like it a lot better actually than X3 in the end. Like X1 and X2, I have a ton of memories of playing X4 as it was one of the first PlayStation 1 games I actually got a chance to own and play. And out of the 3 X games that are available on the original PlayStation, honestly I think this one's overall my favorite, though I do have some fond memories of X5 as well. The added ability of being able to play separate storylines and gameplay mechanics with X and Zero really added some depth to the game and what made it so fun. And even with that though, I've always been partial to playing actually just as X. As the credits wrap up, we get a thank you for playing and a presented by Capcom. After that stays on screen for just a little while, we end up getting one last bit of dialogue. And after that scrolls by, we have our last shot of the credit screen, and then it just goes back to Capcom and eventually going back to the actual title screen of the game, and you can start things all over again. Now there is one little extra about Mega Man X4 that I really didn't get a chance to talk about, but unfortunately it's unavailable unless you put in a code. Both 0 and X have an extra armor that you can get into the game. You have to put in a code at the very beginning of the game and then find it located into the game. And I think overall it makes the game a little bit easier than necessary, but I still want to make sure that I do include it here. At the character selection screen, when you have X highlighted, you want to press circle twice and then left 6 times, and then hold the L1 and R2 button and then start the game. You'll notice that when you start up the game, that Mega Man will have a slightly darker tone to his overall coloring, actually kind of like a purplish color. Just continue the game normally, beating the first actual level of the game until you actually can select the Maverick stage to go to.
Ready.
Once you're able to do so, select Web Spiders level once again. Just continue moving along the level like you would and make it back to the area where you actually found the leg capsule earlier on. Now I found out that you actually can do this in any of the capsules that you normally would find throughout the game, but Web Spiders is the easy to access from the get-go, so that's the one I'm doing here. Instead of getting yourself the leg armor upgrade, you end up getting the full Mega Man Ultimate Armor, which ends up looking really cool. Not only are you a little bit stronger and powerful, but you also have an upgraded Nova Strike. Now the Nova Strike I never performed during the actual game, but I'll showcase it here. By pressing the R2 button, you're actually able to dash back and forth with Mega Man, taking out enemies. You ended up gaining that ability from getting the armor upgrade in the game. However, you had a limited amount of usage you had for it, but with the Ultimate Armor, it's unlimited. So there you have it, guys. There's my Mega Man X run of Mega Man X4. And with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.